This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to the Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. I have a fantastic guest. I've had a chance to spend some time with our guest today, and he is definitely a representation of what business should become. He's the model of the idea that we speak about on Business Decoded. So I am grateful to welcome Jonathan Marques to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Spellman. Thank you very much. I was happy to be here.
Yeah, we connected because I think your team saw some of the discussions and videos and interviews that we had on the program, and we were honored to have you reach out and indicate that you wanted to participate with us in the show. You're the founder of Driving Academy and the founder of JM Growth. You're doing some amazing things. I was telling a friend of mine that you are absolutely the next Tony Robbins and one of the big gurus, not only because of your business leadership, but your ability to inspire other people and get them motivated. I've looked at your website a lot. I like it. I love the branding. I love the energy that you have in what you do every day.
Thank you very much. And it means a lot. And after looking at your program and how many people you inspire and educate, it's definitely something I wanted to be a part of to kind of help the community grow.
Yeah, and you're right. As we look at giving people an understanding of how to successfully build a business, and I have to remind people as well that building a business isn't something that you do at 20. You can do it at 50 and 60, and then you can learn, even if you're an established entrepreneur, an established business leader, there's so many different ways to approach a specific model or concept or evolution as a business leader. And so that's why I enjoy having people like you on the program, because what our conversation, what you've done is incredible. So your business, the Driving Academy, you built it into a multi-seven-figure business with over 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. You've done something special. And then after that became successful, you reached out and created another company, JM Growth. Tell me about your businesses. Just give us a quick overview, and then we'll get into some of the details of how you did what you did.
Yeah, definitely. So I started off my business career in college as a visual and track athlete and a full-time student, and I decided to get into a very easy business called the restaurant business, which that's definitely sarcasm for anybody listening. I do. Restaurant business is one of the toughest businesses around, but it's an amazing education for anybody looking to kind of get into business early. And I started that my freshman year. And by the time I graduated college, so like about 4 years later, I was able to open up a total of 14 total restaurants with different partners. And we were able to shut down 13 of them. So learned a lot about business in general. So about how to scale properly, how to hire the right people, how to lead your team.
Now, Johnny, what led you though to create those businesses? So you're a freshman. Your goal is to go to school and get an education, right? And then on top of that, you were a student athlete, which is already consuming. You were a track athlete. But why in your freshman year create a business? What was it that inspired you to create that business while in college instead of just going to class and reading books?
Yeah, so college was something I was doing because I kind of was guilted into it. It wasn't something that I had an extreme passion for, but it was something that was very important to my parents, my grandparents, and I thought very highly of them. So I said, okay, I'll kind of get it done. My ultimate goal, since I was very young, was to be a business owner and to kind of generate and create my own future. So that was always the ultimate motivation there. And I understood, if you understand business and you understand how to make money, like you can create whatever future that you wanted to, and you didn't have to be a victim to anything around, because you get to, instead of managing the circumstances in your life, you get to create the future that you're actually dreaming of.
Right.
So that was kind of like the motivation, and the opportunity presented itself where there was a restaurant that was for sale, a franchise that I was aware of, and I kind of jumped on in, got some financing together for that, and kind of hit the ground running there.
So how does an 18-year-old pull together financing?
So with this one's definitely friends and family around.
Right.
So my father helped me out with some of the financing. Also asked my grandparents as well. So altogether, we kind of saved up about $75,000 for the first restaurant itself. And this was not any type of easy financing, because at that point, I don't even know what the interest rates were for banks, but I had to pay like a hefty interest.
Sure.
It's mine.
Well, and that's not that's an interesting business decoded premise, by the way, because when you're first launching, sometimes you have to pay a little bit more than you would if you were a little more established. But it gets you in the door to create that business and to get some momentum in your business. So you had to pay a hefty fee for that initial investment. But I presume it was worthwhile just to build the business and to get the experience that you received.
Big time, yeah. So I was able to pay off that, I think, within about a year and a half, 2 years.
That's impressive.
And then off the cash flows of the business itself, I was able to kind of open up multiple locations, bring partners in for other locations itself, and we scaled this thing pretty fast. But without the right infrastructure, that's where everything also crumbled very fast as well.
Now, the first year of college is among the most complicated because you're adjusting from your high school rhythm and routine to being at a university setting. What did your schedule look like? So you're new, you've got the freshman 15 to worry about, right, when you get on campus, but you're building a business that grew to 14 locations. What did your schedule look like that first year? Like I can't imagine that you're getting up at 5 for track practice, then you're working in your academics through the day, and then practice again, I presume, and then running the business. How did it look back then?
Yeah, so first semester, I was just able to kind of be a cool freshman, kind of get my feet wet, that kind of stuff. Towards the end of the second semester, that's when the business actually opened up. So then that's where things got more complicated.
Right.
So I was a track athlete, like you said. So we had 6 a.m. weight room workouts in the morning. I go to breakfast, go to your classes, 3-4 classes throughout the day, type of thing. Practice again at 3:00. And then most of the time, take the drive about an hour to the location, kind of hour. Yep.
Wow.
At that point, 45 minutes to an hour.
Sure.
At the location, and then work that till closing, 9:00. By the time everything's closed, 10:00 at night, kind of thing, and then drive down and do it all over again. One of the beautiful things that probably the college didn't want to hear, but one of the beautiful things about business is having a solid network.
Right.
So when you have that much, that many things to do in your life, only a certain amount of time to kind of get it done, you don't actually have to be the one that does it all, right? So being able to kind of barter or have a good network of friends to help you out with things like homework, or anything like that definitely helps out.
Right.
When it comes to, and another fun fact actually is I never skipped a class. Now, it doesn't mean that I was awake for every single class that's Wednesday,
right.
But I actually never skipped a class. I remember having this one class, I think it was like some type of math class, right and early in the morning. And like, I was probably asleep during half the class itself, throughout the entire semester. But with the right kind of framework and kind of, being very focused on the task at hand. And on top of that, you're a college guy, right? So you still want to go out to the parties. You still want to be able to date. You still want to do all these things. So it definitely taught me that you don't have to put limitations, right? So you think about the biggest, most busy people on this planet, presidents of the country, people who run $1 trillion companies, they have the same 24 hours a day that we all do. And how are they able to accomplish so much more? That's because they have the skill set needed to do so, the team, the network, and also the leverage based on delegating.
Right. What was sleep like for you back then?
That was probably like 5 hours a night, 5-6 hours a night type of thing.
Yeah. I presume you don't regret it, though. I look at that period of time for me, and at certain moments I was just busy. Felt like I was going 24 hours a day, but I loved it. I didn't feel like I was missing anything in that process of building an organization and just being but you're right. You have to really strategically focus and find a way to balance and compartmentalize each one of those areas that you're working towards.
And yeah, I agree. And then also it's like when you have limitations, right? So I couldn't be at the restaurant all the time. It forced me to hire good people, watch the KPIs. I started learning my first things about KPIs and understanding where to watch because I have to watch them from afar. And being able to kind of have that lesson early definitely helped me kind of develop a few mindsets for business and my future ventures.
So, Jonathan, how quickly did it grow? How long did it take you to get to those 14 locations?
So, opened up like I said, a total of 4 years. We're open and then close all locations. So probably within 2.5 years from the time we'd open the first location, we opened up everything. about a year and a half of kind of like, we had nice pops at all these grand openings, but it was definitely not sustainable. And because now the fixed costs started to rise for each location, the rent requirements and all that stuff, we were just losing a lot of cash, which gave me the first principle in business, which is business is really not about profits. Business is about generating free cash flow.
Right.
And most people don't really understand that, because there's some of my buddies who have run big businesses and they'll have $1 million in profit at the end of the year, but they have $0 in their bank account. Right. Now they have to go get a loan to pay the taxes on that, right? So that taught me exactly how to manage your cash flows in business, which is super important. And then it also taught me the infrastructure of, okay, before you're ready to expand and have that ego be stroked by saying, hey, I got 14 restaurants, which is definitely a cool thing to do. But underneath it all, I knew things were cracking. So I would rather, which is the lesson I brought into my next business, which is Driving Academy, really just focus on one location, focus on the foundation of building that and being able to actually be an owner, not an operator in that one location. And that gave me the insight of when I was ready to expand.
Yeah, and you're right. I've seen so many businesses as well. They're huge businesses, several billion, but for the most part, they have no money. They have a lot of debt. And that can help business. So there are two things: having a lot of debt or being very leveraged, and then not having any new innovation. As companies as the market changes, they're not adjusting with it. And that kind of reduces their opportunity for growth as well. But it sounds like you learned some really big lessons there about the cash flow piece. And then also knowing, and I speak to a lot of people as well about this, knowing when to cut your losses. So you get into the business, you find that there's some fundamental items that are impacting your ability to be sustainable. And you decided, you had a big decision to make. How do I cut my losses on this and learn from it, right?
Yep, 100%. Because at the end of the day, I had to get my ego out of the way and say, okay, what's the actual outcome? Which is another thing that I think a lot of people forget. The outcome for me, if I remember, is to own a business and to generate wealth.
Right.
And if I'm owning a business, that's not just only half of the outcome that satisfies the ego. But if I'm not making any money, I don't see any path to kind of change it anytime soon. So at that time, it's okay. How do I cut my losses and move on?
Right. So Jonathan, I want you to tell me about how you transitioned from the restaurant to Drive Academy. But first, you're proud New Jersey.
New Jersey.
You're up in New Jersey, and you also have a unique background. But I'd love for you to tell me about that background and your father. Your father played a really pivotal role, but I think he came to the United States without a lot. Can you tell the story of your father? It's an amazing story.
Podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit andycostafilms.com/podcast and turn your content into leads.
Yep. So, first generation American, both my parents are from Portugal. My father came to the States when he was like 13 years old, never finished high school. I've been living out the language, and with pretty much nothing. And at that point, he was able to grow. And his mindset has always been, okay, work very hard. He got that from his parents, and I got that from him. And like, he was the kind of dad that wanted to also control his own future. Couldn't really work for anybody, so he started a few different businesses. So he had that entrepreneurial spirit. But he came from a generation where owning your business means you are married to the business and you're a slave to the business.
Right.
What do I mean by that? That means in order for him to make more money, that just means he had to work harder. He had to work longer hours. He could not afford to hire anybody because in his head, everyone was going to steal from them. Or, hey, I had to do their job anyway and train them and they're going to mess things up.
Right.
So at that point, let me do 5, 6, 7 jobs, keep my costs down and generate more profits for myself, which is great if you're a hard worker. The downside of me seeing that growing up is if I wanted to see my dad, I would have to go to work, which taught me valuable lessons about work ethic and like what you do for the family and the sacrifices that you do, which is all amazing. But that also shaped my view of, okay, I know there's businesses out there where the owners are not there all the time. And one of the things that I wanted to do for my kids is, okay, how do I understand how to build an actual business that's an asset that I'm not a slave to? And when I have kids in the future, I can actually go to their soccer games or go to their track meets or be able to interact with them because I knew my dad wanted to. He just couldn't based on what that he created. So at that point, after I graduated college, I had one restaurant left. And I decided to, okay, let me just manage that restaurant. So I fired the manager. I became the owner operator.
Okay.
I did a pretty good job. I was making some money, making some profits, but I knew it wasn't enough to kind of live the life that I wanted. So as I was looking to scale, I was like, okay, I can't really scale this thing because this model pretty much only works with owner operators, not as an owner investor type of model itself for this franchise. At that point, my father, one of the companies that he has is a truck driving school. And he's owned this school by, at this point, probably like 15, 20 years or so. And because he was that operator, he would come into my restaurant to eat lunch. We'd talk really quickly. And then he would get a phone call and have to rush back to the office because he had to go put out a fire. And after seeing this a few times, it didn't make me feel good. So I asked my dad, hey, can I learn the business? Can I help you out? He says, no, focus on your business. And I said, okay. 2 weeks later, I see the same thing happen. Hey, can I learn the business? Can I help you out? He goes, no, focus on your business. Third time, being stubborn, I didn't ask. I just show up one morning in the office and I start sitting back and start saying, okay, what can I do differently? What is different? How does this business operate?
Right.
And I just started seeing, okay, from the high level view. I started seeing some improvements that we can make. As an example, hey, we should add this CRM system. He goes, how much is it going to cost? I said, X amount of dollars. No, I'm not going to pay for it. He said, I said, no problem. I'll pay for it. I animated it. I implemented the changes. Long story short, was with him for about 3 years, doubled that business every single year for 3 years with zero extra ad spend, which is pretty cool.
Right.
He was now the owner. I was the operator, still had my own restaurant on the side as well. But I started loving the growth side of things. I started falling in love with, okay, I'm understanding this game of business a lot better now. I understand things. I started researching people who were playing the game much bigger than I was. So it started kind of all making sense. And I saw the momentum, so it made me super happy. At that point, about 2.5 years in, he comes up to me and he says, hey, I think I'm going to shut everything down. I said, what are you talking about? And now I look back, I'm like, good thing I was bald, because if I wasn't, I'd pull all my hair out. I would work 7 days a week, like doing everything I could. And all of a sudden, everything was just going to shut down. He goes, don't worry. Since you're so good at this business, you should open up your own school. And then we'll just transfer the contracts into your school. I said, okay, I guess that's fair. And because I was spending so much time at the new opportunity, I stopped focusing on my current business. And then, of course, things started to slip. Started finding out that employees were stealing from me.
Wow.
I think they're kind of going all over the place, and I was starting to lose money at that restaurant itself. So at that point, I decided, okay, we'll shut down the restaurant, convert it into the driving school. So that's going to be the classroom, the sales office of the driving school itself, and then open up. So once I was officially able to open up, I was a one-man show at Driving Academy, and then I was still helping run my dad's business itself. But at that point, it was pretty much running on its own since all the systems I put in place. 6 months in, I'm getting burnt out. I'm working 7 days a week, kind of going back and forth. I have a conversation with them. I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm getting burnt out. You said you're going to shut down. Are you shutting down? He goes, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. That lawsuit that was coming in, it never came in. I handled it. I'm not going to shut down. So,
Huge shift.
at that point, I'm like, well, I can't keep running both businesses. And then he was like, well, Jonathan, I never asked you to run my business. So when I look back at the story, I'm like, that's right. I asked him twice. He said no. And I just kind of forced my way into it. So I have to take responsibility as an individual where I was trying to do the right thing, but it's not my business. It's his. So at that point, I had to start from zero again. No brand. No one knew my brand, a brand new website, no employees, no contracts, no nothing. And then little by little, I started building it, compounding it, adding systems in place. And now that business has been around for 8 years now. Currently, we have 12 locations open across the country. By the end of the year, we'll probably open up another 6 or so. About 2.5 years ago, we became the first only truck driving school franchisor in the country. And to kind of give you the timeline, from year 1 to probably year 7, we had year 1 to probably year 5 or 6, we had 1 location. Okay. Year 6, opened up the first franchise location. Gotcha. 7 only had one corporate, 1 franchise location. Now we're in year 8, and we have 3 corporate locations, and the balance of the 12 which is the 9 locations of franchise locations. So we were able to expand very quickly within the last 12 months, all because of what I learned that the restaurant business is focus on the foundation. Scale 1 location to the max it can. Don't be part of the operations. And then now you have a proven system that you can scale out.
So, Jonathan, you mentioned that your dad's concern early on was about people stealing from him and then people not performing well, which would damage the business. And it seems like that came true in your restaurant near the end, that you saw people not taking care of the business. Well, how did you even discover that? I think that's the fear of a lot of owners, because with being an owner, you invest so much of your sweat and your equity and resources that the last thing you want is someone to diminish all of that or damage it. How did you come across that as an issue?
So I take 100% accountability. So one thing that I'm trying to pride myself in is not to be a victim. So at that point, an owner knows what's happening in the business as long as they're looking, right? So in the restaurant side, I started seeing the discounts go up dramatically.
Okay.
I started cash kind of starting to change a little bit. There's always KPIs to start measuring, but what winds up happening with a lot of owners is they work so many years in their business, then they start to kind of burn out. There's enough cash flow kind of coming in. They hire the first couple people, then they start getting comfortable. And now they start delegating without verifying. So now they start taking these extended vacations, or, hey, I'm too busy here, I'm too busy there. Yeah, but the people are going to get it. They trust their people a lot to the point where there's zero verification. And at that point, months go by or a year go by. Now you start looking at what's actually happening, and things will start happening. I mean, I've had people steal from me in the current business that I'm in now, driving camping. It's my job as an owner to make sure that I set up the system in place. I put the games, I set the rules up. My job is to actually do checks and balances across the process to make sure things are moving in the right direction.
Right. And Drive Academy, I've had a chance to look at, as I mentioned earlier, your website and your program. You're doing something that's pretty fascinating. So not only do you provide the training, but you also provide the testing. Walk us through how you created your entire model. You have guaranteed training programs. You open 7 days a week. You have free lifetime job placement. And I read a lot of the detail around that model for you. And I think it was, even if they decide to change careers or industries, potentially, you use your network to help them through that transition. I don't think I've seen very many organizations willing to, and you're not a staffing agency. You're a training organization. So walk us through what Driving Academy is from a business model perspective, and how you've separated your business from other driving academies.
Sure, yeah. So high level, we're a driving school. So we're a school. So we'll have a customer pay us about $5,000 for their training education with us. At that, we'll give them all the training that they need to pass all the tests when it comes to written tests to get their CDL permit, commercial driver's license, to drive a big tractor trailer. And then also the practical test where they get tested on road skills, parking, inspection, things like that. After they graduate and get their CDL license, then we'll help them find a job if that's something that they're after. A lot of people don't actually understand that there's about a 60,000 truck driver shortage in this country right now.
Right.
The average truck driver makes more money than the average American. So the average salary for a truck driver, you're talking about $75,000 a year. Average American is closer to $40,000 a year, right?
Right.
So take that average American who's making about 40, is it willing to invest about $5,000 in their education? And within a few years, they can double their salary just with that $5,000 investment. I don't know any other investment that you can make that will actually give you that type of return year over year over year, just by improving your skill set. And that's something that we do better than anybody else. Now, how did I kind of create the system that keeps us different than anybody? One, I put myself in the customer's shoes. I said, okay, I was young, I was scrappy. I said, okay, I'm ending up when I open up my location, there's probably like 6 different truck driving schools around, including my followers. I'm like, okay, what can I do differently? How do the customers actually perceive what their problem is, and how can I satisfy their problem and kind of remove as much risk as possible? So I said, okay, the 2 biggest things is I don't have the money, I don't have the time. That's what I'm going to keep hearing. So we handle that. We're open up 7 days a week. You get to pick your schedule. There's no group training. So that means we can customize the schedule around your needs. Now
There's no group training?
No.
Wow.
So it's individualized training. So the way we kind of do it is you kind of set up different, you can log in on to your student portal, select the hours that you want to go with. And then when you're there in the training guard, and you're rotating throughout the different training sections, almost like circuitry in a gym. So you're not waiting with like 20 people looking at a truck.
Right.
When you're in the truck, you're in the truck by yourself. So that's something that's unique to us. The other thing comes down to, okay, I don't have the money. Okay, so how can I kind of fix that? Well, I need to get paid as a business, right? I have my expenses. I got to cover those. But how do I make sure things are okay? Okay, $500 down. Anyone can pay $500.
Right.
And then you spread out the payments as you're training. So the loan, if you can't afford as much, you can just come in 1 day a week. If you come in 1 day a week, I think the payments come out to like $90 to $100 a week. Anybody can Uber, get $100 a week and get a CDL training. It might take them a year to pay it off, but now that excuse kind of goes away.
Right.
So just giving people that flexibility and that option. And then on top of that, okay, if I'm gonna invest $5,000, how do I know I'm gonna get a return on that? All right, we'll help you out with the lifetime job placement piece. So we have that piece to it as well. So everything from that customer's point of view of, okay, what's going to make us different? And the customers will now feel, okay, they know exactly what my needs are. They know exactly what my fears are.
Right.
And trusted to kind of get.
Well, it's kind of cool. There's been a lot of debate through the past couple of decades, if not longer, on private schools and students having to take out loans to get through their nursing program or even CDL programs. But you've got kind of a pay-as-you-go model that allows them to be in the program and start towards the goal of getting their CDL and changing their careers and enhancing their careers, which is just amazing. So they're not having to take on excessive amounts of debt just to get the CDL license and get out of your program, to graduate from the program. That's impressive.
Yeah. And there's interest-free payments. You pay as you go. If you don't pay for that week because you're running low on cash, no big deal. You just put your training back for that week.
Right.
And that's kind of how we make it as fair as possible.
Right. That's impressive. What are some of the other items that make you unique? You have a state-of-the-art simulator, I understand, as well. Talk us through some of that. Again, it's for for the people listening and watching, this is just incredible how you've created this model, and you did it very, very young, and you created a great marketing focus that allows people to really understand what they're getting from the program. And then you give them a lot of power as the individual student to map out not only their schedule, but their finances to make this work for them. It's just amazing what you've done.
So like if I was a business owner listening to this podcast, kind of when you think about it, high level, this is a very niche market. Most people don't even know that truck driving schools exist. And one of the things, when you think about business in general, I view business in only 3 buckets. I try to make things as simple as possible. And that's what kind of helped me develop the new company, JM Growth Co. So in every business, you're going to have marketing, you're going to have sales, you're going to have operations. So marketing's one job is to get leads generated to your business. Sales, one main job is to make sure that you turn leads into actually cash paying customers. And then operations is everything else that has to do with servicing that customer, hiring employees, the data when it comes to the finance or the legal departments, all that falls under operations itself. So when you kind of think about it, I was like, okay, every business has an ideal customer, which I knew exactly who it was because I was working for another truck driving school. And that gave me a lot of clarity. Then I started saying, okay, how do I get in front of the audience? I didn't have any money at all back then to get started. So that's what decided me to kind of start on YouTube. I was like, okay, if somebody wants to get a truck driver's license, what are they going to actually put into YouTube? How to get a truck driver's license, how to get a CDL, what's the process to pass a road test. So I started researching all the different videos that were out there. And now every single one, all I started doing was posting videos on there.
Right.
And at the beginning, I was the videographer, the editor, the social media manager, the janitor, the CEO, the trainer, everything that had to be done. I was a one-man show. Like a lot of people kind of start off. But I was very intentional with what I was looking at.
Right.
And that a lot of people just posting one video, they think they did the job. No one's going to see that one video.
Yeah, right.
I think on our YouTube channel, we have over 3,000 videos posted. Now I have a whole team that kind of handles that stuff. But even when I was a one-man show, I was dedicated to posting at least 1 to 2 videos per week to really start growing that thing.
So how powerful, especially for some of our leaders that might not have grown up in today's media market, social media, how powerful is social media for your business? Now, you described some of it, but talk that business leader through what that looks like, even some of the newer young people, they might be on social media, but they don't really understand the power of it from a business perspective.
Yeah. So when you think about marketing, in order for marketing to be done correctly, marketing only needs three things. You need the right audience with the right message and the right delivery, right? So social media is just one of the delivery avenues to kind of get in front of the right audience with the right message itself. And all marketing is, there's value add marketing, which is kind of like what I was doing. I was giving free training, kind of value in the beginning. And then if they had enough value up front, my thought process was, okay, I'm going to make sure I promote my business itself. Hey, go to my website, give my company a call, things like that. And if you see me enough, I'm going to kind of start getting seared into your brain. Now, when it comes to all the social media, I'll kind of give you a quick master class.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have very little to no social media presence at all, you have to be very clear on who your audience is. My recommendation, start off with YouTube. YouTube is going to be the hardest to kind of get the momentum going.
Okay.
But YouTube is not necessarily a social media platform. It's more of a search engine platform.
Right.
It's actually the second biggest search engine in the world is YouTube.
Right.
So if you're a business that solves a problem for somebody and you're super clear on what that problem is, start putting videos on that for YouTube. So this is the beautiful thing about YouTube compared to the other social medias. If you put a good video out there that adds value, the longer that video stays, the more people are going to see it. So if you ever search YouTube, you'll see things that are posted 4 years ago that you'll probably watch. Right. Same thing when it comes to your business, especially if it's an evergreen problem. And then from there, the difference between that and like normal social media, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that has a very short shelf life, which means you constantly have to post things more often. You're going to get more virality from it itself. But all of a sudden, now, over time, less and less people are going to start watching that piece of content.
Interesting. So you're a huge Mr. Beast fan? I know a lot of content.
Mm-hmm. So it's all about good content. And the thing to also understand, once I understood this one metric, it really kind of changed the way I view marketing.
Gotcha.
So the human brain itself needs about 200 hours of actual interaction time with somebody to be considered a friend. So once you spend about 200 hours with somebody, then you're a friend. But there's no difference between spending time virtually or spending time in person in the human brain.
Right.
So when you think about your overall campaign, your goal is to get everybody to spend 200 hours with you. And if you can't spend 200 hours with each individual person, that's where content gives you a lot of leverage.
Gotcha.
So that's the main thing. Because think about it. Every time you get somebody to watch 200 hours, it starts compounding. Now they're comfortable enough to actually do business with you.
Right.
But the downside of that, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get 200 hours? You have to be committed. Think about how niche the CDO market is. There's only so many things I can talk about. How in the world was I able to create over 2,000 videos in such a niche market? Because I'm committed. I can say, okay, the 5 things to do to pass your CDO license, the 5 things to do, the 5 things to avoid so you don't fail your CDO license.
Right.
The top 3, the top 4, like all these different things, you just hit the same topic with multiple angles.
Right.
And add enough value, it's going to be good and it's going to play out for you pretty well.
Right. So, Jonathan, we're nearing the close of our program, but I want to walk through a few quick items. One, how is AI and autonomous trucks influencing what you're doing? Is there any impact on your business?
Right now, no. So we believe that autonomous trucks are definitely going to be something in the future. I think we have a 10 to 15 year window before that actually turns practical. I think the technology will definitely get there sooner, but the biggest wild card people are not talking about is going to be the actual Congress, like the legal side of things, right? So when you think about it, there's about 3 million truck drivers, just truck drivers, not including their families and the people that are affected with truck drivers itself. And a politician's job has one job, and that's to keep their job, which means keep people happy so they can vote for that.
Right.
I'm not sure many politicians are willing to put out an entire sector and destroy that many lives. So at that point, you're like, okay, very hard chance that the politician is going to go against where the voting structure is going to go. So that kind of helps us out. The other thing is what industry is the closest to us? And then you have your airlines, right?
Right.
Airplanes have been flying themselves for the past 20 years. A lot of people think that the pilots are actually the ones doing it. They can just press the button
Right.
and sit back and just chill.
Right.
But by law, you still need a pilot there. So I think there's definitely going to be something like that moving forward, which is why a lot of franchisees who are interested in kind of starting a truck driving business and kind of helping out their community making profits, that's one of the concerns that they have. But once they understand, okay, even if you have a 10-year window, you can generate more than enough cash in this business and then kind of use that investment to move on.
Transition. No, that makes sense. So I'm a huge fan of career and technical education programs. Some call those the blue collar jobs. And you mentioned this at the beginning of our program. It's a great industry to be. We need it here in the United States because the products, whether they're coming on a ship or some other format, they need to be distributed throughout the U.S. And you need drivers. You need people that know how to manage those big vehicles. I recently took a drive across the country in a really big vehicle. And I had an even greater appreciation for those truck drivers and them managing the road and all that's happening while driving, from cars weaving in between. They have some restrictions on how long they can drive. The truck stops were full of truckers through the day, but it was great just seeing product move across the country like that. Love's became a great place on this trip. It was a 20-hour drive that I took. Love, and I think Flying J is another big one, Pilot. But stopping through those facilities and seeing the driving community was really cool.
Yeah, definitely is cool. A lot of people don't really understand all the work that truck drivers do for this country. There was actually a case study done in Brazil a few years back. All the truck drivers went on strike in the entire country.
Wow.
Within 3 days, all the grocery stores are empty.
Wow.
That's how important things actually get when it comes to truck drivers.
Absolutely.
And being a shortage that we have today is a great opportunity for anybody looking to change their career. Also a great opportunity for anybody looking to open up their own truck driving company as well. Truck driving school.
Now, Jonathan, tell me about what's next for you. You have JM Growth. You're helping to inspire other businesses to do what you've done. Where are you headed next?
Next, so the next thing that we're launching is a company called JM Growth Co. And the main mission there is pretty simple. Make business growth simple, right? So I believe I already told you my philosophy of business is marketing, sales, and operations.
Right.
As long as you systematize those things, you can start scaling. I believe there's a lot of business information out there, but when there's complex information, it stops you from actually taking action. And nothing's going to move your business in the right direction unless you actually take the actions. But it's got to be the right actions to actually take. So you actually have to be intentional about it. I tell my team all the time, you guys can be full of activities, but if no results are changing, nothing's changing on the business itself, right? So our mission is pretty simple. Help businesses get to 3 levels of success. Level 1, let's get you to $1 million in sales first. Level 2, let's get you to $1 million in profit. Level 3, let's help you scale that even more if you have bigger dreams, bigger goals, or let's help you sell your company if that's something that's after as well. I've been able to do that multiple times with a few different businesses over my time period and helping other people do the same thing. As an example, one of my friends started an accounting firm. I helped them get from 0 to $1 million in sales last year. And one client that we have, they own a pretty big car rental company.
Right.
About $22 million in top line revenue.
Wow.
But they lost $1 million the first year when we were starting to work with each other, before we worked with each other. After working with them for about 6 to 8 months, I got them to keeping their top line pretty much the same, maybe up to 24 million, but their profit went to $4 million.
Right. That's impressive. Yeah. And like I said earlier, and I've mentioned this to a lot of my business friends as well, you can have 20 million in revenue, 1 million in revenue, 4 billion, but if you're not making any margin, then what's the point, right?
100%.
And so one of the items, and we'll close on this, one of the items you mentioned earlier about your business and having people to come into the business and just not having some of the right people take the right actions, but you mentioned delegate without verifying. And I thought that was really profound. What other business decoded tips can you give our listener? And hopefully they'll not only come visit and learn more about JM Growth, but what can you give them to help understand, like, how do you build this model of success and make sure that you're driving profit in your business?
Yes. So there's one concept I like to talk about, which is build a business with people versus build a business with systems, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually just start building a business with people. And this is a general progression on how things work. You start a business, you're a one-man show, you kind of get good, then you get a little bit too busy, you need some help. You hire the first couple of people, they're definitely not qualified because you can't afford anybody that at that point. But now you start training them up, and over the years you build bond and you build loyalty. And now they're in roles that they technically are not qualified for.
Right.
But they're actually moving the needle, which is great. The problem with building a business that way, which is a very traditional way of kind of being reactive to how kind of the market treats you, is if one person leaves, your business is done.
Right.
Most of the time, they're going to be doing things that you, as the owner, no longer know what to do because you're not verifying, you're not checking things in, and there's very little duplication. So it's very hard to scale that way. A little bit harder way to build the business, but if you want it to last long and scale, is build the business systems. Because if you actually have a marketing system, okay, this is how we're going to get leads, a sales system. This is how we're going to convert leads into paying customers, which is this is my script. This is how our customers are going to greet people. This is exactly what I want my team to say when they actually answer the phone correctly. And then now you have an operation system. When I get a new customer, these are the steps that they have to go through. It's going to take a little bit longer to actually get that done. But now you hire competent people, which means now you don't have to spend an arm and a leg for a solid person in the marketplace, because sometimes people are always hard to find to kind of build everything for you. But now that one person goes, you just interchange that person and put them into your system.
Right.
That gives you ultimately the freedom that you want moving forward, as long as you actually put in the work. Now, a lot of people don't really know how to set up the systems and processes in place. And that's where we're here to kind of help you out and kind of guide you along that way.
Yeah.
But and then the only extra piece on top, once the systems are in place, you can't just let it run. You actually have to measure KPIs.
Right.
As long as you say, okay, this is the game plan. These are the rules. Like if you think about bowling, you put the bumpers up. This is what you're able to do in this role. At that point, now it's my job to check up on you or you send me a report, and I can kind of review things. And we can now change you from being an operator in your business to an owner. Right. There's one quote that I love from Keith Cunningham. And for anybody who does not know who that is, if you heard about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book from Robert Kiyosaki,
right?
Keith Cunningham was actually the rich dad in that book.
Okay.
And he has a saying that says, operators get tired, owners get rich.
All right.
So you get to decide, do you want to keep being the operator in your business, or do you want to now turn into the owner?
Right. I love it. Hey, Jonathan, you have to promise me this. So we wrapping up now. What I'd like to do is to have you back in a future date on our program. And I'd love for you to talk more about the GM growth side of your venture and your entrepreneurship, and give some clues to business owners that you give when you're consulting with business owners. I think you have so much wealth that's largely learned experience that you can share with our listeners. So I'd love to have you back, and we'll focus on the GM growth side of your operation.
I love that. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Good deal. Jonathan Marques, appreciate you being on the program. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share, and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.